I think you have so many wonderful things about you and your story and your content to talk about today. So like, yeah, let's get into it. Yes. Okay, so we always love to talk about kind of like a little bit about your journey, just so that if either people haven't heard or they're new to the podcast or new to you, like they kind of get a little bit about who you are. And you're like an OG in this space, okay? So you are an OG in the space, but you live in Texas, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I would love to know a little bit about like your journey as an influencer, and then even how you went from like probably influencer culture to moving to Texas, or making the decision to be in Texas.
Actually, I've always been in Texas.
You've always been in Texas.
I've always been in Texas.
I'm from Texas.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
Texas girl.
Yes.
I love it. No, I've always been in Texas.
Okay.
So I actually, half of my life I've been in Texas, the other half in Mexico, but it's the border cities.
Yep.
So it's kind of like I'm in the same place. I feel that I've never moved. I've only moved houses, but not really locations.
Okay.
And I decided to stay there, and I really love it because job is so, I want to say, so unpredictable. I mean, throughout the years, I've had some years that I've been working heavily here in LA. So back in the day, I will always come to LA, always working here. Then that switched to Miami. Then I will always go to Miami. I was always working there. And now I'm working a lot in Mexico. So it's like, why would I move if like wherever I work, I can still be at home and just like fly and then come back to home base. Yep. Which I love it. I mean, I'm from there. So it's just like, it's so familiar. I feel that my little town grounds me and centers me.
I agree.
I'm not moving.
No, you're like, no. I'm from San Antonio. So I grew up in San Antonio. But I lived here for a long time, and I just moved back to the East Coast to a really small town with my family. So I love it. I'm the same way. I'm like, I could travel to LA. I could travel to New York. I could do the things that I want to do, but I get to have my space.
Exactly. In San Antonio, it's not a small town, but it still feels kind of like homey because I go to San Antonio quite often. Yeah. And I don't know, plus it's like Latino.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Culture is like I grew up, the Mexican side of my family lives in San Antonio still, and then my dad and all my family we're up in upstate New York. So I get all the experiences. So I love San Antonio. Yes. But yes. So your career though, you started into Texas obviously, but and you've stayed there throughout your career. Yes. How did you kind of like get into this world?
It was literally by chance. So one day, I was recently married, and my husband and I had like very different schedules. So I would get home way earlier than him. So I was by myself at the house, which I wasn't used to because back in the day when I was living at my parents' house, I would get out from work or from school and I would go home. My mom would be there and we'd chit chat in the afternoon. So I went from that to going into an empty house. Mm-hmm. So those like few 3-4 hours before my husband would come home, it's like, okay, what do I do? Mm-hmm. That's how I discovered YouTube. And it was the rabbit hole because I started to see all these girls there were not that many, but there were a few that they were just like sharing their tips and tricks about makeup and hair and shopping, the beginning of the famous hauls now. And it was just so interesting. I created the account. I don't know how it's now, but back in the day, you had to create an account in order to leave a message or a comment. So I was like, well, let me open an account so I can comment on this like little communities and just leave my nice comment. And that's how I created the Rosy McMichael handle. So it wasn't a strategy. It was nothing. Plus, back in the day, you will not use your name. You would use like something juicy, something star, something glittery, and a number, and nothing that had to do with your name. But because I wasn't planning on making content, all I wanted was to comment.
Be yourself. You were just yourself.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, this is my name. That's what I'm gonna type. So I created the account, and that was that. And then one time, we're out shopping, and I saw a camera that now everything is like that. But back in the day, it was not that common to get the flip monitor. So I was like, oh, and I saw it. I was like, okay, so I can flip the monitor. I can see myself and I can film like this girls. Okay, I get it. And I bought it. It was $150. And my first video, I would say, don't watch it. It's cringy. When I see it, I'm like, oh man. But I mean, it's the beginning and I honor that piece of content because it was the beginning of all this. And that was that. So that's how I started. And then just like I tell people, when you want to do something, just do it because it's never going to be perfect. I think with time, I found my voice, my style, even the way I was going to do my intros, like the way I would say goodbye at the end of the video. So that's how it started. It is crazy to think that it was 14 years ago.
And it's crazy to think if you wouldn't have done it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if you wouldn't have just bought that camera, what do you think you would have done if you had?
Okay. Actually, I have no idea because I was out of college. I was working as a second and third grade teacher.
Okay.
And actually, when I started creating content, I was using the school district computer to edit my videos. I am so sorry about that. Someone from the school district is watching that.
They're so proud. They're so proud.
It's because they would issue to teachers MacBook Pros.
Oh.
So you know how you will get the Final Cut program there. So actually, no, it wasn't that. It was iMovie. It was iMovie, which is a free software to edit videos.
Yeah.
So that's how it started. That's how I learned because my personal computer was just like a regular desktop Windows computer. So I didn't have that program. And I knew from watching these other girls that they would use iMovie to edit.
Yeah.
And I had the district computer and I would do grades and I would edit. So I was a teacher. So for 2 years, I believe, I was teaching and I was creating content, but then I got pregnant and it was a high risk pregnancy. So I had to stay at home. And my husband and I were financially prepared for like about maybe 3 years for me out of work and still continue with the same lifestyle. And maybe down the road, I will go back, but my son would be like 3, 4, going to kinder and such. And that's when it took off. So I never went back. So if it had not happened, I think I would have just gone back to my regular job because that was my plan.
Yeah. And again, back then, this wasn't actually a career yet.
No one was making money.
Yeah, this wasn't like something that like this is something you did for fun.
Yes.
And because you loved it and because there was like a community growing.
Yes.
Like I was in that world too. I would watch everything. And when you say something juicy, something glitter, it's like, yes
you can think of what I was talking about.
No, literally. It made me laugh so hard. Like that is 100% what it was. And I mean, it was what an amazing world it was back then though. I miss it. Like I do miss how it was. It's fun how it's evolved. And like, yes, we're living in a really fun, cool social world. But like those early days.
Those were beautiful because if you go back, I mean, and you would see the filming, the editing, it was so raw and organic. And I'm not saying that right now it's not, but we have like so many I don't want to say that it's a standard, but it's an expectation at this point.
Yep.
So you have now your fancy camera, your fancy lighting, and you try to make everything very aesthetically pleasing. Or when you're doing swatches, it's no longer like, with a window, even if it's cloudy, well, it doesn't matter. I mean, because before it would be it doesn't matter.
Yep.
Right? It was just like so organic. So I kind of miss it, but not at the same time because I've lived through so many eras at this point.
You've seen it all.
Yeah, I've seen it all. So I think for me, I've learned to embrace and be thankful that I've been able to live those eras. So I know what it was to create content in a very raw and organic way. And I know how it is to make it now in a more polished and, it's just, you're like trying to take care of your content and elevate it. So everything has its pros, its cons, and I'm happy to have lived it all.
Yeah. And you're taking something from each era with you.
Yes, exactly.
Like I feel like people who were during that, YouTuber era, the early YouTuber era, you do remember it and you do so even if you're as a creator, you're like, I still have that piece of me. Like I still have that with you, even throughout the years, like you adapt and you adjust, but you still take it with you, you're still the same like person. You just loved makeup back then. Even did you want to be a makeup artist? Like what was your beauty relationship, I guess, like your relationship with makeup?
Okay, so I was teaching and one summer I came to LA to go to cinema makeup school because I wanted to do bridal. But I wanted not just to do it just like, okay, one day I'm just going to wake up and I'm a bridal artist. No, I wanted to go to school and polish that a little bit. So I came here, I went to cinema, I went back and I started to do just that, bridal makeup, which was great because that's what I wanted. And it was really good because during the week I would be at school teaching and I would do bridal and social Friday afternoon, all of Saturday, and sometimes Sundays because Sundays you will have, baptisms and things like that or baby showers.
Yep.
So it was working great. But I got into a place that I was always doing the same look. The same, back in the day, the same Kim Kardashian smoky eye. Maybe it was darker, black, or it was like softer brown, but it was still like a very neutral smoky eye. That's all I was doing back in the day, which is very me. I'm very much into neutrals, as you can see, and you can see all over Instagram. But I got to a point that it's like, okay, I kind of want to do purple.
Yeah.
So when I purchased that little camera and I started to do videos, I started to explore with a product let's say glitter, which was huge back in the day, that I would not use glitter in social. Like the big lashes. We would like also use like these feather lashes. It was just crazy. Just like other kind of stuff. And that's what I wanted to do.
Are you hitting